Yo, what's going on, guys? We just got back from the first two rounds of the 2023 SRO TC America Championship at Sonoma Raceway in Northern California. I put out like a mini vlog thing. I don't really know what exactly you want to call it, but we came away with 2 second place finishes. We were consistently the fastest BMW there. So in an effort to just extend the racing content and the racing videos, I wanted to put together a little track guide from Sonoma. Everything is so calculated, so precise. And so I'm gonna kind of share with you guys a lap here in a race situation from my perspective, the marks I'm trying to hit, the throttle and brake applications, the gearing, stuff like that. So really give you guys an inside look as to what's going on in the cockpit. I do need to mention that although SRO is a professional series, I do not claim to be a professional driver. I think that term just gets thrown around way too loosely in the motorsport industry, and I just think it's rather disrespectful to those factory drivers who actually earn their entire living off driving race cars and stuff like that. So although I am quite experienced, I've been racing for nearly 10-12 years at this point, you know, I wouldn't put myself on the level of true proper professionals. So just take it for what it is. At the end of the day, I'm just sharing my experiences and documenting them on the channel as I do with any other type of video that I make. So enough talking, let's get into it. So this lap is actually from the beginning of race one. I have a Honda breathing down my neck, which you guys will see towards the end of this lap. It's not perfect, but I think it's actually a little bit cooler because it shows in a race situation where the pressure is totally on. You don't have the sort of luxury of making sure you have a clean track with nothing else to think about. I'm trying to catch the guy in front while also defending the guy in the back. So hitting your marks has to just kind of be like second nature almost. You can't really be thinking about what exactly you need to do because there's so many other variables that are being that are going on at this moment. So I thought I'd share because it does add some context to what's going on. Here we go. The front straight here is probably one of 3 zones where you can actually sort of take a breather, check your gauges, stuff like that. However, there is a lot of curvature in it, and the setup for turns 1 and 2 is very crucial. So as we come in here, we're at the top of 4th gear. We are pretty close to this bend and pit wall, but we don't have to be completely on it. The more important thing is to make sure you're nice and wide here on the setup going up the hill, as this will maximize your entry for turn 2, I believe is what it is. So this corner, it's a very, very light brake. You don't want to over brake this because the hill going up to turn 2 is so big. You don't want to slow down too much with the brake. So very light brake, almost just to help turn the car. Fighting to get back on power, but it's not really a priority as much as just getting the car set up. And you'll see at this point, we are basically completely parallel with the side of the road. The goal is to be right on this entry curbing here, again, to maximize the entry and our corner speed at the top of the hill. So if we carry too much speed through turn 1 and ended up in the middle of the track here, we'd really have to slow up and pinch our entry for the next corner. So it's kind of a balance of carrying enough speed through 1, but also not too much to where it throws you out into the middle of the circuit. So nice and set up here. Another really small brake here, and this is where we actually downshift to 3rd gear for the apex of turn 2. So goal here is to try to carry as much corner speed as we can and making sure the car is placed properly at the apex. Because this is a very, very blind corner, you really have to make sure you're precise at this point so you don't run off the track on the exit. So really like taking all of this curb here. You really can't take too much of it. I think, you know, the curve is basically halfway in my car here. So at this point, you start to see the exit. So it's good to sort of get your eyes up, sit up in the chair to make sure you know where you're at. And now really at this point, you're just unwinding the wheel, applying throttle. And at this point, we are full bore and just making sure we're tracking out all the way for the run down into turn 3 here. So very similar corner to the 1-2 complex in terms of how it works. It's just a little bit slower and happens a little bit quicker, I feel like. So coming in top of 3rd gear, almost coming off the limiter here, you can see our setup. We are completely parallel with the right side of the track here, just about touching the curbing. Very light brake, and then using the compression, using the uphill to help turn the car, give us grip, give us braking power, all that sort of stuff. So as we're climbing the top of the hill, we start to apply the power. And again, very crucial point here to turn 3, hold the car to the left here. You can see it be very easy to release the car, but you'll end up in the middle of the road and then have to really slow up for the apex of 3. So by keeping the car here to the left. You'll even see my hands in the cockpit view. I still have just a little bit of wheel in here just to make sure we are nice and set up for 3. The challenge with 3 is that it's even more blind than turn 2, and I think, in my opinion, the consequences are much higher at 3. The walls are very close. It's a little bit quicker coming down on the exit. So you really have to make sure your car is where you want it coming up the hill. So in our cars, it's just a very brief breathe of the throttle. And then you can see right as I get back to the apex, I've already went back to about, 20% throttle. The key here is you want to get right in this gully of the apex. If you take too much of the curbing, it really throws the car around, which the BMW M2 did not like. So making sure we're kind of right here in this little notch. And then as you start to see your exit, you can begin to squeeze on the power for the downhill run into turn 4, which is a very tricky corner. You can see just how close the walls are, the dirt. So if you do get this wrong, you could be going for a pretty gnarly ride. So down the run into turn 4, very easy to charge this corner, come in too hot. It's a downhill braking zone, so you don't have the track working with you. So if you have a car without ABS, or anything like that, be very careful of locking up your wheels here, your tires. So braking before the end of the curbing, as you can see here, we're pretty hard on the brake. We're actually going down a gear to second. This is the one thing with the BMW M2 where, gear ratios would come into play. This corner you could take in 3rd gear, but you're coming out at the very low end of the power band. When you downshift to second, you're coming out right at the top of it. So I just enjoyed how the car felt in 2nd gear. I think it helped to slow the car down that extra mile an hour or 2, just to ensure you're doing a slow in, fast out sort of deal. Because in 3rd gear, you might be able to overcook the entry, be late on power, and sort of be affected down the whole straightaway. So I dropped to 2nd gear, and I was always aiming for the front of the curbing here. You kind of look like it's almost like a knuckle. So really aiming for the front part here, as that seemed to be the apex as this corner decreases in radius. So it's very inviting on the entry, but you have to know that it actually is going to get tighter as you come around. So can't be too greedy, got to be patient. But as soon as we get in there, we can start to open up the hands here, squeeze the power in 2nd gear, then use all the road here, using all of this exit curb just so we can be as straight as we can, full power in 2nd gear, going up through the gearbox. 3rd gear, going through turn 5 is pretty straightforward for the most part. It's a typical out in out. I would just caution you if you are offline, if you're passing lap traffic or you're in the wet. This corner can be a little bit trickier than it looks. In the dry, on good tires, it's really not an issue. I wouldn't take much of the apex curbing as it does throw the car around a little bit. But pretty easy flat in our case. I would track out as much as you need to, but no more than you have to, because you do have to hustle the car back to the right now for turn 6, the carousel, as we start to really descend the hill and really feel the elevation that Sonoma has. So pulling the car back to the right, as we crest the hill, you're gonna start to feel yourself as you kind of come on top of the hill, the car really settle down, and that's my cue to brake. So I'm using the momentum of gravity literally in the hills to help provide maximum braking capabilities. Because this area, there's not really a true marker, so it can kind of be like, where's my brake point, where's my turn in point? So I'm actually doing it in the BMW M2 by just the feel of my seat as I crest that hill is my hard initial brake point, and then I'm bleeding off the brakes. So you don't want to over slow this corner because there's so much deceleration that's going to happen just by rolling down the hill. So braking hard, but then immediately pulling off the brake and starting to get yourself into the grip zone. You don't want to be too far out on this corner because there's a lot of marbles, dirty track area where a lot of the grip is actually inside. So 4th gear, starting to bleed off the brake, down to 3rd. Now we're rolling. Now at this point, we're starting to pick up maintenance power. You're really here just figuring out, you're essentially steering the car with your feet is a better way to say it. If you need to sort of tuck the nose in, maybe you're breathing off the power, letting the car turn. If you're kind of good where you are and you can start to run out, you can start to give it gas. So this is really all an exploratory phase of the corner. I do think, in my opinion, this is my weakest area of the track during the race. If you look at the car in front of me, he's a little bit positioned, a little bit wider pointing down the hill, which is going to help him get off the carousel a bit more. So I think I'm a little narrow here. Ideally, I'd be out a little bit more facing down the hill. But you'll see we're fighting for power. Your apex isn't until the bottom of the curbing here. So it's really crucial to sort of stay out wide, but not too wide, and then come in and ultimately start to squeeze for power. I got it, I had to come off of it, but now I've committed back. grabbing fourth gear at the bottom of that hill. It's a very, lots of G-load going on here. And again, using all the road, just be careful. If you use too much, it can be a pretty gnarly ride, but you don't want to pinch this. So using all the road as we come into 7. Now this is the first sign a little bit of the Honda behind me, who was just extremely quick down the carousel. He kept attacking me in this corner on the outside. So I'm just kind of letting him know I know where he is. I'm not fully blocking him at this point because he wasn't really close to where I needed to, but I'm not just leaving the door open because I didn't really trust that this guy wouldn't send it up the inside. So going into 7A, you'll notice I'm kind of on the middle of the road. Not really. Ideally, I'd be completely up against the wall, but we're braking at the start of these signs for the most part. Slightly uphill brake zone to help give us a little more traction. Down 2 gears to second, one of the slowest corners on the track. Coming into 7A here, you can really roll a lot of speed here because you can come out so wide. You can see I'm full power second gear at the top of the RPM band. Again, I'm a little bit worried, this guy behind me, but there's no track limits here, anything like that, so you can really come all the way out over the white line to help widen your entry, your approach into 7B onto into turn 8 and stuff like that on the run into 9. You want to be patient to where you can commit to power and have a nice run up through 8 here. So wait. As you start to kind of bend the car in is when we can start to commit to power. Just know that the turn 7B, again, is a decreasing radius corner. It kind of comes back on itself. So at this point, you may be thinking, oh yeah, look at all this track I have. Time to like really hammer and open up the wheel. But the track actually comes back. So you got to be a little bit careful because if you commit too much here, you're going to have to really check up and just completely kill your time. So wait. Now we're good. Looks like we have a little wiggle coming out. But then on the run up to the S's, kind of run over these corners, up through the curbs, up through the gearbox, 3rd, 4th. Now this is the initial setup here I'll call this really turn 8. There's a little fire road here, a little access road. You want to just dip, a tire width over here again, just to maximize that entry. Even a few feet helps carry the speed up. So kind of setting up over into this access road a little bit, still under full power, turning the car, aiming for the front of this curbing. The brake here, as you see, is really just meant to help turn the car. So because the BMW M2 really has no aero, it's hard to get the car to do what you want at high speed. So I'm using the brake just to put some weight on the nose, on the steer tires to help turn the car. So a little brake, aiming for the front of the curb here. I find if you aim for the front, by the time you actually get there, you're going to be right where you need to be. So get your eyes up, aim for the front of the curb, and now you can see we're already committing back to full power. So now I've shifted the weight back to the rear of the car. If you stay off the throttle too long and you kind of coast through here with the downhill, you are in danger of the car starting to kind of wash out on the back. So I'm actually putting weight back on the rear of the car to help stabilize the car at 90 miles an hour. So as we come through the first part of the S's, boom, now we're full power. Again, just keeping the car slightly to the left. You can see how close I am to the grass over here. But at this point, we're full power. And we should be able to keep this all the way on the run into 9, just steering the car here, staying in 4th gear. So very slow track in terms of top end wise, but very fun and busy track either way. So as we come into 9, you're looking for the boards on the left. I think our brake zone is right around the 200 board. You'll see the board right there. Before that, I would say maybe the 250. But again, race situation, not exactly like precise spots here. But very hard brake zone, lots of grip here, down 2 gears, 3rd, then down to 2nd, turn the car in, really aiming to really hit the front of this curb. Most people were even jumping it in the dirt. That technically was not allowed, and I didn't think you really needed to. So 2nd gear, really getting into the front of this curbing with a lot of steering input. This is easier to show on actual telemetry and data to just see how much steering angle is here. You almost can't really tell on a video, but the whole idea here is really getting the car turned here at 9A. So then once you land, you can just kind of open up the wheel and now you're positioned straight over 9B for the run out. So again, the theory is sacrificing 9A, slowing up 9A so you can get a better run out. If you come too fast through here, you might gain a 10th or 2 or 3 on the entry, but you're going to lose it all back and then some more on the run into 11 or 11. Yeah, so hard over the curb here. No brake or anything, just letting back off the throttle here. I enjoyed using this whole curb with the M2 because it's such a heavy, big car. It helps kind of turn the car and it doesn't really affect power down or anything like that. So I was utilizing this whole curb. Depending on your car, might not like the whole thing, might only like some of it, but at this point, second gear able to commit to full, and now it's a pretty straightforward run up through the gearbox. Third gear, fourth gear, here's turn 10. Again, a pretty straightforward out in out corner. However, in the wet, if you're passing lap traffic, this can be a little bit tentative, especially in the wet. Water pools up here. It's just like you got to hold your breath, close your eyes, and hopefully you don't aquaplane too bad. But in the dry, turn 10 is not really an issue. I would use all the road here, open up the wheel if you have to. You can even use this exit curbing. Coming into the final corner, turn 12 here, top of fourth gear. Our brake marker is about the pit cones here on the left. You'll start to see those just ahead of me here. Down 2 gears to second. This is kind of a wash on the video because I had this Honda who I mentioned was kind of really attacking me in the beginning of the race. He threw it up the inside, but he threw it in a little bit too deep. So then I was able to kind of tuck in, nice little over under here, just squeeze between sort of the apex barrel and him. I think we might even made some contacts. I'm kind of surprised I didn't hit the barrels, seeing how close this was. But when I saw him kind of dive in, I didn't think he'd be able to make the corner. So tucked back in and was able to hold on the position, second gear, third, fourth. So not really the best, best representation of that corner, but I think it kind of shows what was going on in the race, and ideally in the M2 I would just kind of wrap that whole curbing as a help turn the car, but aiming for that third barrel if you want to V it, you know, and come back in. Kind of depends on the car you have. I know the faster GT3 cars with more aero and more power were kind of diamonding it more and really rotating it and then just hammering out of there. Our car, I think it was a little bit quicker to sort of keep the momentum, keep the roll speed up, and use that curbing. So there's always more than one way to get around some of these corners. And again, this is just what I did, and I feel like I found some success. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. My aim was to do one of these for the tracks that we go to help give you guys some more insight into what's actually going on. So I will roll an uncut lap here so it doesn't have all me talking, starting and stopping. But hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I'll see all of you guys in the next episode. Take it easy, Stoke Squad. Peace out.